laughed at all over the world. Now, given this state, of course, Trump is saying he is going to appeal. I'll get into some of how that's probably going to look. That could be a long process. It could be a several-year process, even depending on how it goes. One of the issues that's being brought up is the fact that, well, this is New York State, and in New York City in particular, not even just New York State, so far we've seen the court systems seem to have a real biased issue, just being honest. They have a very politically biased issue. The prosecutor brought the charges, of course, Alvin Bragg. He's been reducing felonies to misdemeanor. People pushing people onto the subway tracks, assault, battery, even rape. Migrants, illegal immigrants beating up police officers, getting off the hook. Things like that would normally be treated as some of the most serious crimes in the country are being treated as if they're just low-level misdemeanors. And we're seeing what would normally be low-level misdemeanors, bookkeeping charges, being done the opposite, right? Being elevated to felonies. And so there's a question whether the justice system here is being politically motivated in these actions. Trump has repeatedly pointed out that Alvin Bragg is a Soros-backed DA. He's denied this. George Soros has denied this. But there is Soros money tied indirectly to Alvin Bragg. And so he does have some money through a bit of going around, let's put it that way, from Soros. Now, Trump also spoke with the media right after the verdict. Let me show you what Trump had to say in his initial statements right after the verdict. Watch.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros-backed DA, and the whole thing, we didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end and we'll win. Because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline. Millions and millions of people pouring into our country right now from prisons and from mental institutions, terrorists. And they're taking over our country. We have a country that's in big trouble. But this was a rigged decision right from day one with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case, never. And we will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over. Thank you very much.
Now, look, after the verdict was announced, the page where people can go and donate to the Trump campaign, well, it looked like it had crashed, actually was offline. This was the Trump donation site, and Team Trump, his team, they noted this. They said the American people see through crooked Joe Biden's rigged show trial. So many Americans were moved to donate to President Trump's campaign after, of course, the announcement that the WinRed pages went down. They said, we're working on getting the website back online as quickly as possible. Stay strong. Briefly on that as well, Trump's team said they had record donations immediately after the decision. They claimed it was the best fundraising day they'd ever had, over $30 million coming in. And that was despite the fact that, again, the donation page actually crashed, meaning even if you wanted to donate, you really couldn't for a good window because so many people were trying to donate all at the same time. Meaning, even though it was the best fundraising day the Trump campaign has ever had, about double their previous highest number, I want to say the last I checked was about $34 million in one day. That was even probably low because a lot of people who tried to donate could not donate because the website went down because so many people were trying. And so we'll see maybe today the donations will continue. This has put just rocket fuel behind the Trump campaign. This is fueling the campaign, not stopping it. It's having the opposite effect so far.
Yeah.
Now, it seems that currently the Trump campaign team does not believe the guilty verdict is going to make them lose votes either. In fact, if anything, it's galvanizing the Trump voter base. We're talking more about the impact of the verdict, though, after a quick break. Around this. And on the other side of the political aisle, you have a lot of Trump supporters and Republicans saying that justice is going to go the other way. And they're talking about launching investigations. They're saying the door has been opened now to put other people on trial. If they can go after the former president, that's everyone, folks. That means every former president can now be put on trial. That means every single public official can be put on trial. They've opened that door. And that door is going to be very hard to close to this country. Now, on the note of this Trump campaign, Politico is saying that Donald Trump's pollsters have been tracking the impact of his indictments throughout his first trial, and they say moving forward to get ahead of events are arguing that regardless of the verdict in the New York hush money case, they can spin it in his favor. In other words, they don't think this is going to have a negative effect on the Trump campaign itself. Which goes against initial polling saying that Biden is going to have the old Biden bump if they get a guilty verdict. That's off the table now. Trump's base is not turning on him. The moderates are actually turning towards Trump. In fact, a lot of never Trump Republicans, a lot of them have been stating their disgust with what took place yesterday.
Yeah.
And the Democrats, again, are relatively quiet on it. Political notes in the campaign's internal polling, 2/3 of respondents say politics played a role in his criminal indictments. 2/3 of people think this was politicized. 2/3 of Americans believe this was not justice, that this was a political attack by one party against the other. And notes that that is at odds with public polling, which has found that somewhere between a plurality and a majority of Americans believe the case has been handled fairly, at least previously, right? With a sharp partisan split. Some 60% of voters, they say, have said they think charges are very or somewhat serious. Even 6% of Trump voters say they would be back convicted. Again, that's Politico. But remember, that's Politico. And even among left-leaning news outlets, the views on this are pretty different. In fact, a recent poll by Drudge Report, which after Matt Drudge kind of left the thing, took kind of a hard left establishment shift. Even Drudge Report, they had a poll on this that could give a hint about how people really view the case. This is what Drudge Report showed, of all places. Drudge Report, again, they went from being pseudo-conservative to being fairly far left. They're very, again, pro-establishment these days. This is Drudge Report, folks. Now, by the way, if you go on the Drudge Report website now, on their main headline, they just wrote guilty 34 times, to give you an idea of where Drudge Report falls. On that poll, though, most people think that Trump is not guilty. And remember that people reading Drudge Report are mostly not conservatives now. A good amount of people believe there was a mistrial. Only around 1/3 of people on the Drudge Report poll believe that Trump is actually guilty. Now, the Trump team also moved quickly in its response. His campaign published a video that claims the New York case is a sham trial. And the only verdict that matters is what happens on Election Day when Americans cast their votes. That's, by the way, one of the big narratives going around now. You know, hey, trial by jury, but the real trial is going to be November. But people cast their votes and decide who's really innocent and who's really guilty. Now, here's a bit of that as well. Let me show you.
This case is an abomination. You know, it's obviously political. 7 years to try to come up with this case. They're just wrong on the law.
The only crime that Donald Trump is being prosecuted for is the crime of running for president. Political persecution at the highest level. They've quite frankly given up on trying to beat him at the polls. Either going to steal it or stop it by law firm. A Democrat prosecutor elected on a Get Trump platform. What's going on here? It's a disgusting disgrace.
Now, I want to take a minute and emphasize how deeply significant that video is and how deeply significant some of the responses among Republicans are being. Now, remember, one of the big things you find with any political campaign is that the topics being debated are the center stage of what the country is discussing. Normally, you have the establishment topics. Normally, it's gun rights. Should people be allowed to own guns or not? Or How much should the government regulate firearms? It's abortion. Remember when the Supreme Court made it so that Roe v. Wade is overturned at the federal level and needs to be decided at the state level? A lot of people thought that that would actually harm Trump. Again, Roe v. Wade, right? Because abortion is a kind of divisive issue. People fall heavily on one side or the other with it.
Yeah, Turkish
Normally,
folks.
there are certain topics we debate as a country. And under normal circumstances, all the media just focuses on those topics. All the politicians just debate on those topics. And a lot of other things, like, for example, political corruption, special interest, all that stuff, that's all behind closed doors. They don't bring that out to the public.
Nope.
What is now taking place is that, Trump he's been facing legal attacks. He has integrated those attacks into his campaign. He's using these attacks against him, saying this is an example of the corruption, of the problems our country is facing. This is why you need to elect me. I'm just emphasizing what he's been saying on his campaigns. And he's saying that if I'm not here, they're coming after you, essentially. He says they're going after you, I'm just in the way. Now remember, for a long time, that message has been mostly just Trump, at least until recently. That message emphasizing that the criminal justice system in this country may be broken. That message suggesting that there is politicized justice, that there is rampant corruption within our political system, that maybe the only option is massive reform. That has been Trump's campaign narrative. And what's interesting now is that Trump's narrative is becoming the entire national discussion. We're not talking about abortion. We're not talking about gun rights. We're not talking about, whatever normal issue they might have tried to drag out to the public to be the main talking points for the debates. All the normal political discussions are just totally overridden now. And what the country is focused on is a discussion on corruption, a discussion on politicized justice, a discussion on whether we're becoming a banana republic, whether we're like the Soviet Union, a discussion on
Trying
whether
to go
this
that
kind of thing
way.
should be allowed to happen in the country that used to be the model of democracy, of a constitutional republic, of rule of law, and a discussion on whether the America we knew is being brought to an end because of political and special interests. That is the discussion we're not having as a country. That's what the politicians are not talking about. That's what all the media pundits are talking about. That's what Trump is talking about. That's what his campaign is talking about. This is what the country is going to be debating on. And this is going to be the issue that's going to, again, as people go to the polls, the people are going to be casting their votes on now. The entire political debate in this country, the discussion on the soul of the United States, all of this now is focused on these core issues. Our entire debate has now shifted. We're not talking about normal politics anymore. This is going to be the main campaign issue going into November. And remember as well, because of the way it's been set up, Juan Berchan said it, so the sentencing is June 11th. We're not going to hear the end of that. Trump is going to be also facing other additional charges. And not only that, but Hunter Biden, the son of Joe Biden, is on trial. Republicans in Congress just came out and they're noting all these different shell companies allegedly being used by the Biden family to bring in foreign money. All of this is going to be center stage for our national debate on what is now the main topic in America, which is political corruption and weaponization of justice, and whether in fact we're losing the very nature of what America is, the very nature, again, of a country based on rule of law that used to be the model for the world. Well, everyone, that's all for tonight. Thank you for joining us, and as always, please take care of yourselves, stay informed, and stay free.